Alright, good evening YouTubers. I'm back. So got this hurricane stuff behind us, and I want to continue my series on reloading 380 ACP. So we're going to do a multi-steps on this video, and the reason it'll be multi-steps is because I'm using a Dillon 550B semi-progressive reloader. If you were using a single stage reloading press, you would do the same steps. It was just you would do one step at a time, whereas this machine does multiple steps at the same time. But what I'll do is I'll walk you through each step set up for one round, and we'll load one round, and then I'll create another video where I run the balance of 100. So we'll load 99 380s in the next video. So for this video, we're going to cover the steps to get the press up and running like it was sitting already set up to load 380 the last time I used it. So I'm not going to cover caliber changes or anything more press specific yet. There's a lot of videos out on how to set up a Dillon press. Maybe I'll do another one just the way I do it, but that's not the focus of this video. So the focus here is that we're going to load 100 380s. The press is already set up for 380 ACP. However, it's been a month or so since I've loaded some 380, so we're going to go through the steps to make sure that our press is indeed set up correctly. We'll load one round in each station all the way around until we get it right, and then I'll stop the video and we'll start a different video and then load the balance of 100. So first step is, as you know, was to get all the brass clean. And if you've not seen my other video, I showed you how I clean brass with my tumbler. Cleaned a bunch of 380 brass. It's nice and shiny, nice and clean. So we're going to start there. Next step on the Dillon is we need to get primers loaded in the primer tube. So the way we do that might be kind of hard for me to show you, but I'll give it a shot here. If you can see here, I have this primer flip tray. So I think you can probably see that. So I use CCI primers, small pistol primers for 380. So we take them out of the case, I put them on my flip tray, turn it over like that, and get all the primers out. In order to pick them up in the primer tube, they all have to be flipped over on the back. So you shake it, it's got little ribs on it, you can probably see that, and you get all the primers on their backs, and then put the lid on it like this, flip them over, and then you get the primers on the fronts. Okay, so once we have that, you use the Dillon pickup tube, and we just go and simply pick up each primer in the tube. Takes just a couple of minutes to pick all these up. You just want to make sure you don't flip one over while you're picking them up. So you can use CCI, Winchester, Remington, S&B, there's Tula, Russian primers, there's probably several others I'm not thinking about. I tend to stick with ones I know work, and that's CCI. So if you're a Winchester primer fan, a Remington primer fan, then off you go. Use whatever primer you like. I like CCI. They go bang every time I hit one with a hammer. So that's what I use. Alright, now that all the primers are in the primer tube, just make sure that last primer's down in there. And then we need to load the primers into the tube on the press. So there's a hole here. Probably can't see that. But just pull the pin out, the primers fall down, and the tube is loaded with primers. Alright, so the Dillon has a low primer indicator. It beeps when this rod falls down, which means you're almost out of primers. Just lets you know, hey, you're running out of primers. Don't continue to load rounds without primers. So works pretty well. No issues with how the press works. So now that we got primers in, first step in reloading the 380 is to take a polished case, and you want to stick it in the press, and the first thing that's going to happen is you are going to press the old primer out of the case. In step 1 of the Dillon 550, on the downstroke it presses the primer out. It also resizes the case, and on the upstroke it places a new primer in. So you're really getting the first 3 steps of loading 380 in the first stage of the Dillon press. So again, pressing down pushes the old primer out, resizes the case. On the upstroke, primes the case. So let's do that. So simple as that. Press the old primer out, put a new primer in, and we have a resized case. So the one thing we want to do is use a case gauge. Can't recommend it enough. Get yourself a good case gauge to ensure that your cases are getting resized correctly. And when I do that, you can see it fits flush with the top of the case gauge. It does not protrude out the bottom, nor would it with just the case in it. And you can ensure that if it fits in this case gauge, that it's going to fit into your pistol. Alright, so you know that the resizing stage and the resizing die is set correctly if it fits in there flush, or even just a hair below flush. Alright, so can't recommend this enough. I'll leave a link in the description on where to get a 380 ACP case gauge. So now that we've got step 1 done, you rotate it over to step 2. And what this stage does in the Dillon press is it does 2 steps. So this is really step 4 and 5 of reloading the actual case, and that is it's going to bell the top of the case out. It's going to flare the top, and it's going to drop a powder charge all at the same time. So when I go down, it's going to flare the case out, drop the charge, and when I go back up, then we'll have a flared case with the correct powder charge. Now I haven't run the press since I did it before, so the way the Dillon works is you want to make sure that the powder thrower is throwing the correct charge. So the way I do that is I use a digital scale, and I'll show you that here in just a second. So first we're going to run the case up in the die. It belled the top of the case, and it dropped a powder charge. The first one on the Dillon is always wrong when you start fresh like this. So I just empty that back in there, run it again, and drop a charge. So you probably can't see that, but the top is slightly belled. Actually, you kind of can see that, which means that the bullet will fit very nicely on top without falling over. That's what you want to get with the bell. Not too much bell, but you need enough for the bullet to be able to slide down in there just a little bit. See how it's kind of captured there? That means the bell is just right. But first thing we need to check is the powder charge. So I have my digital scale here. You can kind of see that. So I'm going to pour that in, and I'm looking for 3.1. So in this case I've got 3.0. I'll run it again so you can tell I've got 3.0, 2.9, 3.0. So I'm going to tear that out. I loaded the case again. I want to try another one. Got 3.0, 3.1. And then I always check it one last time, so I'll check it. I have a little air blowing in here, so that probably is why this is not. So 3.2. If I block this air coming from the fan, it's still showing 3.2. So let me run that one more time. Tear it out. Pour it in. 3.1. So I'm now comfortable that on the fourth throw it's 3.1. I can almost guarantee you that I could check 5 to 10 to 20 times in the next 100 rounds and it's not going to waver off of 3.1. Alright, so now that we know our powder charge is going to be correct, and again I just showed you that that's how I do it. This Dillon setup, this powder charge, once you run about three to four charges through it, it settles the powder in the hopper, and it's going to throw consistent, exactly what you set it at. You actually set the charge, and again, I'm not going to show the setup of the press in this series, but just so you know, there's a screw right back here that you can turn each way to vary the powder charge. All right. So now that we know, let's make sure that it doesn't have a charge in it, and it does not. So now that I know it's going to throw 3.1 grains of powder, and for this load, again, I'm not going to give you load data. It's probably some kind of liability. What I can tell you is I took this load data out of the Hodgdon, off the Hodgdon website. It's also in the Hornady manual. I have 4 to 5 different reloading manuals. Use load data out of a manual. Don't use load data off of YouTube people, okay? That's wrong. Don't do it. People are nuts, okay? People do all kinds of crazy shit. Don't do that. Get a manual, spend 20 bucks, get a Hodgdon manual, get a Hornady manual, get a Lee manual, get a Lyman manual, get a manual. Some of them are even online, like Hodgdon. Just look it up online. Punch in 380 ACP. It's going to tell you I'm using HP 38. It's going to tell you exactly how many grains to use with a 100 grain 380 ACP bullet. So that's what I'm using. So we're going to throw the charge. It bells the case, and we move on to the next step. So the next step is just a single step on this press, and that is you stick a bullet on top, and it's going to seat the bullet inside of the case. So when you go up, seats it. Simple as that. But you want to check and make sure that the die hasn't moved or something, right? So the way I do that is I always load the same recipe. Don't, at least my opinion is, buy the same components, check your load out, get a load that you like, and use the same components every time. There's no need to change unless you're curious or you want to try a new load. The way I do it is I find a load I like, I stick with it. I buy the same bullet, I use the same powder, I buy the same primers, I seat the bullet the exact same depth. I don't change anything. I just leave it set up and I just run ammo. I'm not here, I don't have time to try 1,000 different loads. So I find one load, I set it up, and I use it. And I just keep doing it over and over and over. And this is a production press, so I can just press out ammo and I don't have to sit around and screw around with the die set up all the time. So what I do is I take one that I've already loaded out of a previous batch, which I have right here. I take a set of digital calipers and I check them out, and that is 925. So length is 925. That's what I'm looking for. So I checked the one I just loaded, and lo and behold, 925. Hasn't moved. Same exact depth. Alright, so I know that stage is going to work just fine. Put it back in the press, and I go to die number 4. Die number 4 is the crimp die. So all it does is crimp the case. So again, now I've got a completed round of ammo. It's crimped. I could check the crimp. I generally don't do that. I've already set it up so I know it's right. But what I will do is take this completed round and put it in your case gauge. Make sure it falls in. Make sure it falls out. You shouldn't have to press it in. It should go all the way in, flush or just under flush with the case gauge. It should not stick out the bottom of the case gauge. That means it's too long. It won't fit in your gun. So it goes in, it goes out. Not too long. Completed round of ammunition. It's as simple as that. So again, I didn't have to show you all the setup. It takes a little bit of time. I'll do a separate series on setting up, I guess, the Dillon press. If it's something you want to see, leave me a comment down below if that's something you'd like me to cover. But potentially I could do a series on changing calibers. I have complete caliber set for 223 9mm and 38 Special and 357 Magnum. So, but again, I use the same recipe on those as I do for all my previous ammo for those. So all I have to do is change the caliber head out, and everything's kind of already set. I just have to check it. But so maybe I'll do a series on caliber change, and then potentially I could do a series on setting up Dillon dies in a 550 from scratch. But that will probably be somewhere down the road. That won't be anytime soon. So I've got a completed round of ammunition. I know the case is clean. I know it's got a fresh primer in it. It's got the correct powder charge. It's got the correctly seated 100 grain bullet in it, and it's got a correctly crimped case, so the bullet's not going to slide. Right? So that's all there is to it with the Dillon press. Once I have this done, I can now run 99 more in a row as fast as I can move my hands, and I'll do that in the next video. So, all right. So if you like this video, please hit that like button down there. Give me a thumbs up, and please subscribe. I got more videos on the way. In fact, I'm gonna try to do a few more this evening if I can. So, thanks again, and see you next time.